Captain Ethan Miller stared out of the viewport of the small human spaceship as the stars stretched endlessly before him, glittering like shards of glass in the blackness of space. He felt a thrill of excitement mixed with a deep sense of curiosity, because this mission was unlike any other. He had heard rumors from alien traders and distant scouts about a planet at the edge of known space, one that housed the deadliest predator in the galaxy, the Zalvark. The stories painted it as a creature, so powerful and cunning that no species had ever tamed it or even survived close encounters. Ethan's mind raced with the possibilities. Humans were known for their courage and intelligence, but this was a test even they had never faced. Ethan adjusted the control panels and glanced at his crew, Lisa Turner and Jake Collins, both of whom were focused on their tasks. Lisa, a sharp-minded biologist, was checking the ship's scanning instruments to detect any life signs or dangerous energy spikes on the planet below. Jake, a skilled engineer, inspected the ship's landing gear and weapons, though Ethan had made it clear that their main goal was observation and study, not confrontation. The humans had a plan to learn about the Zalvark, not fight it. The thought made Lisa and Jake exchange cautious looks because even the bravest humans felt a twinge of fear when dealing with unknown predators. As the ship entered the atmosphere of the planet, a strange mist surrounded them, giving the landscape a ghostly appearance. Jagged rocks jutted out like the spines of some massive creature, and the air shimmered with unusual energy. Ethan's heart pounded as he guided the ship to a landing site near a massive clearing, where the faint rustling of movement could be seen through the fog. The Zalvark was somewhere close, though they could not see it yet. Every sound seemed amplified in the eerie silence of the planet, from the crunch of rocks under the landing gear to the hiss of the ship's engines as it powered down. The crew stepped out carefully, their suits equipped with sensors and protective gear, though Ethan hoped they would need them only for emergencies. The planet was alive with subtle movements and shadows, as if watching the humans with silent curiosity. Ethan led the group slowly toward a ridge that gave a better view of the clearing. Through the haze, they saw a massive shape move, sleek and terrifying, with eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The Zalvark was immense, its body covered in dark, reflective scales that seemed almost alive. Its claws dug into the earth effortlessly, leaving deep marks that made the humans realize the sheer strength of the creature. Lisa whispered, her voice tense but excited. "It's real, Ethan. I've never seen anything like it." Jake nodded, his usual humor replaced by focused seriousness. The aliens who had sent warnings were right to fear it, yet here humans stood calmly at the edge of danger. Ethan raised a hand to signal the crew to stop and observe. He did not want to provoke the Zalvark, but rather understand it, to find patterns in its behavior and learn how to approach it safely. Minutes passed like hours as the humans watched the Zalvark move. It prowled the clearing with a grace that belied its size, eyes scanning the environment as though it could anticipate every possible threat. Ethan felt a surge of admiration mixed with anxiety. This was the deadliest predator in the galaxy. Yet there was something majestic and intelligent in its movements. The humans' training and instincts told them to respect it deeply, but their curiosity and courage pushed them to consider more than just survival. They wondered if it was possible to communicate, or at least gain its trust. Ethan knelt down and took out a small device designed to project calm signals, vibrations and scents meant to appeal to the creature's senses. He adjusted it carefully, ensuring the output was steady and not aggressive. Lisa watched with anticipation, noting how the Zalvark paused, lifted its head, and tilted it slightly as if trying to understand the strange phenomenon. Jake held his breath, knowing that one wrong move could trigger a deadly attack. The tension was thick, and the mist seemed to thicken with anticipation, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, the Zalvark let out a low, resonant growl that vibrated through the ground. The humans froze but did not retreat. Ethan signaled with his hand for patience. Slowly, he stepped forward, the device held out in front of him. The predator's gaze followed every movement, and for a moment, there was a silent standoff. Then, tentatively, the Zalvark approached the edge of the clearing, sniffing the air where the humans stood. Its claws scraped against the rocks, leaving deep furrows, but it did not charge. The humans had made the first step in establishing a connection, a delicate dance between fear and curiosity. Lisa whispered, "Ethan, it's watching us, but it's not attacking. That's something." Ethan nodded, eyes fixed on the creature. He felt a sense of cautious hope. The Zalvark was dangerous beyond imagination, but the humans had a chance to show intelligence and patience could sometimes overcome raw power. He motioned for Jake to stay alert, but calm. Every sound, every movement could make the difference between life and death. Hours passed as the humans observed and interacted subtly with the Zalvark. They noticed patterns, movements, and reactions that indicated intelligence. It was not just a mindless predator. It thought, observed, and learned. The humans' respect and careful approach seemed to intrigue it. Ethan began to imagine the possibilities. If they could establish even a small bond, the implications for science, diplomacy, and survival across the galaxy would be enormous. They were witnessing history. As night fell on the planet, the mist thickened, and the clearing became a play of shadows and light. The Zalvark retreated to a ridge nearby, keeping an eye on the humans. Ethan, Lisa, and Jake set up a temporary camp at a safe distance, reflecting on the day's events. They shared quiet words of excitement and caution, understanding that the real challenge had only just begun. The Zalvark was not defeated or tamed yet, but the humans had taken the first brave steps toward what no other species had dared. Ethan stared at the glowing eyes of the predator in the distance, feeling a mix of fear, respect, and determination. This was not just an adventure. It was a chance to show that humans could confront the deadliest forces in the galaxy with intelligence, patience, and courage. Tomorrow, they would try again, learning more about the Zalvark and testing the boundaries of trust and survival. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the galaxy itself was watching the humans who dared to face its greatest predator. The morning light barely penetrated the thick mist covering the planet as Captain Ethan Miller, Lisa Turner, and Jake Collins prepared for another day of observation and cautious interaction with the Zalvark. The air was damp and heavy with the scent of alien flora, making every step feel like a journey into an unknown world. The humans had spent the night at a safe distance, studying the creature from afar and noting its patterns. They had learned that the Zalvark moved mostly in the low light of dawn and dusk, its senses finely tuned to vibrations and heat. Today would be the day they would try to get closer. Ethan led the team toward the ridge where the Zalvark had spent the night. Each step was deliberate, careful, and silent. The ground was uneven, littered with jagged rocks and strange plants that seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light. Lisa carried a compact device designed to project calming signals, vibrations, and scents, hoping to convey that the humans meant no harm. Jake had set up a portable shield that could protect them in case the predator became aggressive, though Ethan hoped it would not be necessary. The planet was alive with subtle noises, the rustle of leaves, distant animal calls, and the faint hum of the atmosphere. Every sound seemed magnified, adding to the suspense and tension. As they approached the clearing, the Zalvark emerged from the mist. Its massive form moved with silent power, muscles rippling under the dark scales. The creature's eyes, glowing faintly, scanned the humans. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Ethan froze, holding up his hand in a signal for patience. The Zalvark stopped, sniffed the air, and then took a cautious step closer. The humans' hearts raced, but they remained calm, showing respect and intelligence instead of fear. Lisa gently activated her device, and a soft vibration traveled through the ground. The Zalvark paused, cocking its head as if trying to understand the unfamiliar signal. Jake held the portable shield ready but did not move. Ethan slowly extended his hand, showing no aggression. The tension was palpable, and the aliens who had been observing from orbit through remote sensors would have been astonished. No species had dared to approach the Zalvark in this way, and yet here were humans moving forward with calculated patience. The Zalvark let out a low, resonant growl that shook the air slightly. It was a warning, but not an attack. Ethan did not flinch. He understood that communication required trust, and trust required patience. He took a step forward, then another, carefully observing the creature's reactions. Lisa adjusted the signal device to a slightly higher frequency, sending a calming pattern through the ground. The Zalvark's growl softened, and it tilted, its head studying the humans. Hours passed as they maintained a careful distance, each movement deliberate and measured. The Zalvark explored the clearing, occasionally pausing to sniff or observe the humans. Ethan noted the subtle patterns in its behavior, how it reacted to sounds, movements, and vibrations. Lisa recorded everything, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Jake whispered to her, marveling at how the humans had become part of the rhythm of the planet without provoking the predator. Every small interaction was a victory, a sign that intelligence and patience could sometimes overcome raw power. Ethan decided to test the next step, offering a small amount of food. He reached into a specially prepared pack containing nutrient-rich meat designed for large predators and slowly extended it toward the Zalvark. The creature froze, its glowing eyes fixed on the offering. The humans remained still, hearts pounding. The Zalvark inched closer, sniffed the air, and then, with surprising gentleness, took the food. It did not attack, and it did not flee. It accepted the gift, a small but monumental breakthrough. The humans exchanged relieved looks, knowing that this moment marked the beginning of something extraordinary. As the sun climbed higher, the Zalvark moved closer to the humans, its curiosity growing. Ethan spoke softly, using a calm tone, and the creature responded with subtle gestures, a tilt of the head, a flick of its tail. Lisa noted every movement, understanding that each signal was a form of communication. Jake adjusted the protective shield to give them more freedom to observe, and the humans began to feel a cautious connection forming. The predator was dangerous, unpredictable, and magnificent, yet it showed signs of recognition and trust. They spent the entire day observing, recording, and interacting. Every small success was met with careful restraint. The humans demonstrated not just bravery but intelligence, empathy, and patience. The Zalvark began to follow simple cues, responding to calm gestures and the presence of humans without aggression. Ethan felt a surge of pride, realizing that humans had achieved what no other species had dared. They were establishing a relationship with the deadliest predator in the galaxy, and the implications for science, diplomacy, and survival were immense. As night approached, the humans retreated to their temporary camp, reflecting on the day's events. They had made significant progress, but they knew the journey was just beginning. The Zalvark was powerful, intelligent, and potentially lethal, but the humans' respect, patience, and courage had opened the door to understanding. Ethan looked at his crew, feeling a bond strengthened not only by friendship but by the shared experience of facing the unknown. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the humans who dared to confront the deadliest predator in the galaxy. The next morning, Captain Ethan Miller led his crew through the misty terrain toward the Zalvark's usual hunting ground. The planet was alive with strange sounds, from distant roars of unknown creatures to the rustling of alien plants swaying in an invisible breeze. Ethan moved slowly, every step calculated as he wanted to show the predator that humans meant no harm. Lisa Turner followed closely, carrying her instruments to record behavior and environmental data, while Jake Collins kept a watchful eye, ready to deploy protective measures if necessary. The tension was high, but the humans' focus never wavered. Through the thick fog, the massive figure of the Zalvark emerged, its dark scales glinting in the weak light. Its glowing eyes locked onto the humans, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Ethan froze, extending a hand in a peaceful gesture. The Zalvark let out a low growl vibrating through the ground, but it did not charge. The humans had learned to respect the creature's power, and that respect seemed to be acknowledged in return. The predator paced slowly, circling the clearing, muscles rippling under its armor-like skin. Each movement was deliberate and full of intelligence, showing that this was no ordinary beast, but a highly aware and deadly animal. Lisa activated the calming device, projecting subtle vibrations and scents designed to reduce aggression. The Zalvark paused, cocking its head as if trying to understand the strange signals. Jake whispered, "It's watching, but it's curious now." Ethan nodded, understanding that the predator was starting to see them as something other than a threat. The humans continued their slow approach, careful not to make sudden movements. Every action was deliberate, a silent conversation through gestures and signals. The suspense built with every step, as the planet seemed to hold its breath along with them. Hours passed as the humans observed and interacted with the Zalvark, each moment filled with anticipation. Ethan noticed subtle patterns in its behavior, how it responded to sounds, vibrations, and the presence of humans. He signaled Lisa to make slight adjustments in the device's output, testing different rhythms and frequencies. The Zalvark responded cautiously, tilting its head and taking tentative steps closer. The humans were learning that intelligence and patience could sometimes reach places where strength and fear could not. Ethan decided it was time for the next step. He carefully placed a small offering of nutrient-rich meat on the ground and stepped back. The Zalvark's eyes followed the movement, and for a tense moment it did nothing. Then, slowly, it approached the food, sniffing and circling before finally taking it. The humans held their breath as the predator accepted the gift without aggression. This small act of trust marked a significant breakthrough, showing that the deadliest predator in the galaxy could be reached through patience and respect. As the day progressed, the humans experimented with more subtle interactions. Lisa extended her hand slowly, fingers spread, while Ethan spoke in a calm voice using gentle tones to convey safety. The Zalvark responded with cautious gestures, moving its massive head closer and tilting it in curiosity. Jake monitored the perimeter, ensuring there were no sudden threats from other creatures. The suspense remained high, as every movement could trigger a deadly reaction, but the humans' careful approach paid off. They were beginning to understand the predator's mind. By late afternoon, the Zalvark had grown more comfortable with the humans' presence. It followed their movements from a short distance, occasionally touching the ground near them with its claws without causing harm. Ethan noted every detail, realizing that they were building a bond based on mutual recognition and trust. The alien observers, if they could see this, would be astonished at the humans' ability to interact safely with a creature that had terrified entire civilizations. The suspense and tension created an atmosphere that was both thrilling and educational, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape. The humans retreated to their temporary camp. The Zalvark followed at a safe distance before settling nearby, showing signs of curiosity and interest rather than aggression. Ethan, Lisa, and Jake reflected on the day's progress, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. They had learned more about the predator than any other species had before, proving that courage, intelligence, and patience could achieve what brute force never could. The night fell and the mist thickened, creating an almost magical ambiance. The Zalvark rested nearby, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Ethan watched it carefully, knowing that each day of careful observation and interaction brought them closer to understanding and possibly forming a bond with the galaxy's deadliest predator. The humans had taken another step into history, showing that even the most dangerous creatures could be approached with respect, intelligence, and courage. The planet seemed to hum with anticipation, as if it too recognized the significance of the humans' daring journey. The following morning, Captain Ethan Miller led his crew across the fog-laden plains toward the clearing, where the Zalvark was known to roam. The mist clung to the jagged rocks and alien plants, creating an eerie and suspenseful atmosphere. Every sound was amplified, from the distant calls of unseen creatures to the faint rustle of leaves beneath the humans' boots. Ethan moved deliberately, signaling Lisa Turner and Jake Collins to follow cautiously. Today, their goal was to test deeper interaction with the Zalvark, moving beyond observation into the delicate realm of trust. The massive predator emerged from the mist, its dark scales glinting faintly as it moved with silent, powerful grace. Its glowing eyes fixed on the humans, and for a moment a tense silence filled the air. Ethan extended a hand, palm outward, in a universal sign of peace. The Zalvark growled low and deep, vibrating the ground beneath them, but it did not charge. Lisa activated her calming device, sending soft vibrations and subtle scents designed to communicate non-aggression. The predator paused, its head tilting slightly as if considering the human's intentions. Jake kept a protective shield ready but remained still, understanding that sudden movement could provoke an attack. Ethan slowly advanced, each step measured and deliberate. The Zalvark moved cautiously, circling the clearing while maintaining its attention on the humans. Its intelligence was evident in the way it observed and responded to their actions. Ethan noticed small gestures, subtle shifts in posture, and flicks of the tail that indicated curiosity rather than hostility. The humans had learned to respect the creature's power, and their careful approach seemed to be earning cautious acknowledgement. Lisa placed small offerings of nutrient-rich food on the ground, stepping back to allow the Zalvark to approach on its own terms. The predator sniffed the first offering, then the second, before finally consuming them with deliberate care. Ethan and his crew watched intently, hearts racing with anticipation and excitement. Each act of acceptance marked progress, a small but significant step toward establishing trust with the galaxy's deadliest predator. The Zalvark's movements were unpredictable, keeping the humans alert and focused on every subtle cue. As the day continued, the humans experimented with gestures and vocal tones, trying to communicate through calm, deliberate actions. The Zalvark responded to these cues, moving closer with careful observation. Ethan spoke softly, using gentle tones that seemed to catch the predator's attention. Lisa recorded every detail, noting patterns in its behavior that could reveal insights into its intelligence and instincts. Jake monitored the surroundings, ensuring safety while allowing the humans to engage fully with the creature. The suspense was constant, as every interaction could shift the balance between trust and danger. Midday brought a breakthrough. The Zalvark approached within a few meters, sniffing Ethan's extended hand. The humans remained perfectly still, demonstrating patience and control. After a tense moment, the predator touched Ethan's hand lightly with its snout, a gesture that conveyed tentative trust. Lisa and Jake exchanged looks of disbelief and excitement, realizing that humans had achieved what no other species had dared. The Zalvark, once feared across galaxies, was beginning to recognize them not as threats but as beings worthy of cautious interaction. Throughout the afternoon, the humans continued to study and interact, observing how the Zalvark responded to changes in tone, gestures, and food offerings. Each small success built confidence and reinforced the bond forming between humans and predator. The planet's atmosphere seemed to hum with anticipation, every shadow and movement adding to the tension. Ethan felt a growing sense of awe, recognizing that patience, intelligence, and respect could reach places where fear and force could not. As dusk approached, the Zalvark settled nearby, keeping a watchful eye on the humans while maintaining its distance. Ethan, Lisa, and Jake retreated to their camp, reflecting on the day's remarkable progress. They had taken bold steps in learning to interact safely with the deadliest predator in the galaxy, proving that human courage and ingenuity could overcome the most formidable challenges. The stars above shone brightly, casting long shadows across the landscape and hinting at the extraordinary journey that still lay ahead. As the morning mist lifted, Captain Ethan Miller led his crew toward the clearing where the Zalvark had become a familiar presence. The predator's massive form emerged from the fog, muscles rippling under its dark scales as it moved with silent precision. Its glowing eyes tracked the humans' movements, alert and intelligent. Ethan raised his hand, signaling Lisa Turner and Jake Collins to follow carefully. Today, their goal was to deepen the trust that had begun to form over the past days and to explore the limits of the predator's curiosity. Lisa carried her recording instruments, capturing the Zalvark's every movement, while Jake held a protective shield but remained still, understanding that sudden action could provoke the creature. Ethan adjusted the calming device, fine-tuning vibrations and scents to convey reassurance. The Zalvark paused, cocking its head as if processing the signals. The humans moved slowly, deliberately, showing no aggression. The tension was high, each step a test of patience and intelligence, but their courage held firm. The predator approached cautiously, circling the humans and sniffing the ground near their feet. Ethan extended his hand slowly, palm outward, and the Zalvark responded, by touching it lightly with its snout. This small act of recognition marked a significant breakthrough. Lisa whispered in awe, noting how the creature's posture softened and how it seemed to observe them with curiosity rather than fear or aggression. Jake adjusted the shield slightly, giving them more freedom to move while remaining prepared for sudden changes. The suspense was constant, each moment filled with the possibility of danger or trust. Ethan began to explore ways to interact more directly, offering small pieces of nutrient-rich food to the Zalvark. The predator took them carefully, not as a threat, but as an acknowledgement of the human's presence. Lisa recorded every detail, noting how the creature's behavior changed with different gestures and tones. The Zalvark responded to Ethan's calm voice, tilting its head and moving closer with measured steps. Each interaction reinforced the growing bond, a silent communication of respect and understanding between human and predator. Throughout the day, the humans observed patterns in the Zalvark's behavior. They noticed how it reacted to changes in light, sound, and movement. Ethan signaled Lisa to test new calming sequences through the device, and the predator responded with subtle gestures, showing recognition and trust. Jake monitored the surroundings, ensuring that no other creatures threatened their delicate interactions. The suspense remained high, with every action carefully considered, every reaction analyzed, as the humans sought to deepen the connection, without provoking fear or aggression. By afternoon, the Zalvark had begun to follow the humans more closely, responding to gentle signals and movements. Ethan saw an opportunity to give it a simple name, a symbol of emerging trust. He whispered softly, calling the creature Razor, acknowledging its deadly reputation while recognizing the bond that was forming. The predator seemed to respond to the name, its eyes tracking Ethan with focused attention. Lisa smiled, noting how the small act of naming created a stronger connection, humanizing the predator in a way that could inspire trust and curiosity. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the humans continued their interactions, observing how Razor responded to different gestures, sounds, and offerings. Each small success built confidence, showing that patience, intelligence, and respect could reach even the most dangerous creatures. The planet seemed alive with anticipation, shadows and mist creating an atmosphere of suspense and wonder. Ethan felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that humans had achieved what no other species had dared, establishing a tentative bond with the galaxy's deadliest predator. As night fell, the humans retreated to their camp, reflecting on the day's remarkable progress. Razor settled nearby, watching them with glowing eyes, neither threatening nor retreating. Ethan, Lisa, and Jake understood that the journey was far from over, but each step brought them closer to a unique and extraordinary relationship. The stars above shone brightly, casting long shadows and highlighting the vast possibilities that lay ahead. Humans had proven that courage, intelligence, and empathy could achieve feats beyond imagination, and tomorrow promised new discoveries and deeper trust with Razor. The next morning, Captain Ethan Miller led Lisa Turner and Jake Collins through the misty plains toward the clearing where Razor, the Zalvark, had grown more comfortable with their presence. The atmosphere was tense, yet filled with anticipation, as the humans prepared for their most daring interaction yet. They intended to bring Razor closer than ever, testing the limits of trust they had been building over the past days. The planet's alien flora rustled in the soft breeze, and distant sounds of other creatures reminded them of the dangers surrounding them. Every step was deliberate, measured, and full of suspense. Razor emerged from the mist, its massive form, moving with the grace and power of a predator at the top of the food chain. Its glowing eyes followed Ethan and his crew, and for a brief moment, a silent understanding passed between them. Ethan raised his hand, signaling for patience and calm. Razor's low growl vibrated through the ground but lacked aggression. The humans had learned that showing respect and intelligence could create a bond even with the deadliest predator in the galaxy. Lisa adjusted her calming device, sending subtle vibrations through the ground, and Razor responded by tilting its head and stepping closer. Ethan carefully extended his hand, offering a small piece of nutrient-rich food. Razor sniffed it, then took it gently, acknowledging the human's gesture. The predator's movements were cautious yet deliberate, displaying intelligence and awareness. Jake monitored the perimeter, ready to protect the crew if needed, but trusting the growing bond to guide their actions. The suspense was palpable, as every gesture and response could shift the fragile trust between human and predator. Throughout the day, the humans interacted with Razor, learning to understand its body language, vocalizations, and subtle cues. Lisa recorded every detail, marveling at the predator's responsiveness and adaptability. Ethan spoke softly, using calm tones to communicate reassurance, while Jake adjusted the protective shield to allow freedom of movement. Razor began following simple commands, responding to gentle gestures, and showing signs of recognition. The human's courage, intelligence, and empathy had created a connection that no other species had achieved. By afternoon, Ethan and his crew decided to test Razor's ability to follow them over a distance. They moved slowly across the clearing, and Razor mirrored their movements, maintaining a safe but close distance. Each step was a lesson in patience, observation, and trust. The humans were amazed at how quickly the predator adapted to their cues, and the suspense of whether it would obey or strike kept their senses alert. They realized that they were witnessing a rare and extraordinary relationship forming before their eyes. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the jagged landscape, Ethan called the crew to a halt. Razor stood nearby, its massive frame outlined against the fading light, eyes glowing with curiosity and recognition. Ethan spoke softly, acknowledging the bond they had built, and Razor responded with subtle gestures that showed understanding and acceptance. The humans had succeeded in taming fear into trust, creating a connection that transcended species and instincts. That evening, Ethan, Lisa, and Jake prepared to leave the planet, bringing Razor with them to demonstrate their achievement to the wider galaxy. The journey back through the misty plains was filled with careful observation, each human aware of the predator's responses and needs. Razor followed willingly, its presence a testament to the power of patience, intelligence, and respect. The humans reflected on the days of interaction, recognizing that courage and empathy could overcome even the deadliest challenges. As they reached their spaceship, the stars above shone brightly, casting a silvery glow over the alien landscape. Ethan looked at Razor and whispered the name once more, feeling a sense of accomplishment and wonder. The predator responded with a low, resonant growl, almost like a confirmation of the bond they shared. Lisa and Jake smiled, knowing that humans had achieved something extraordinary, something that would be remembered across the galaxy. Their courage, intelligence, and careful actions had transformed fear into trust, and they had proven that humans could face even the most formidable creatures and succeed. The story of Razor and the humans would inspire awe and admiration, showing that patience, respect, and understanding could bridge worlds and species in ways previously thought impossible.